Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. It's Irina here from Busy Studio, and today we're gonna be doing a new tutorial. We're gonna be painting this super cute whimsical fox in Procreate. So what's important to say before we start is that in this particular tutorial I'm going to be featuring my new brush set, which is called Ode to Nature, which you can purchase from my shop. The link is below. However, you don't absolutely have to use these brushes or canvases. Use your own, use someone else's brushes, use the Procreate default brushes, because if you follow along the techniques, you're going to be just fine. The effects might be different, however, in the end, but I'm sure the result will be amazing in any case. Also, what I think is important to mention is that I provide some free resources for this class, and particularly there is a mini color palette, there is the Procreate Fox stamp sketch, so you don't have to sketch by hand yourself, and there is also a JPEG canvas which you can use to make your artwork a little bit more realistic, like it's drawn on the paper. And how do you get to those resources? I'm glad you asked. So there is a link down below, and just follow this link, and I'm gonna ask a small favor. I'm gonna ask you to subscribe to my newsletter, and then you'll get the access to my free resources library. And I think it's important to say that I'm not going to bombard you with commercial offers often. So it's going to be like more of a monthly newsletter, sometimes twice a month, where I'm just going to share my life updates, some news, and there is always a little gift for you. Often there are discounts, like really good discount codes, like 30% off, 50% off from products on my website. And I'm gonna try and always create something like Procreate related for you, free of charge, so you can download it in any newsletter of mine. So yeah, hopefully you subscribe, and the ones who are subscribed already, thank you so much for being with me. And yeah, let's begin. Alright guys, so first of all, thank you so much if you've purchased the Ode to Nature brush set. It's the soft textures of Procreate brushes inspired by nature and natural materials and objects and textures. And as usual, I'm gonna show you a quick overview of the brushes before we start painting. So the set, as always, comes with two different Procreate canvases, and the structure is the usual one I create. So you've got the layer stack here. Paint here layer is underneath the paper texture layer, and I'm going to quickly demonstrate you what it means. So for example, this is my Ode to Nature brushes, and I'm going to take chalkstone brush, and I'm going to choose this light color, and I'm just going to paint here. So you can see that's the paper texture coming through. So I'm switching it off and I'm switching it back on. And sketch here, as always, the way I do it, I put it on top of the stack, because sketch is usually not a part of the final artwork. I'm gonna delete it later or switch it off or whatever. And the other canvas provided with the set is Nature Linen canvas, and I'm gonna show you again. On the paint here layer, you can see that there is this linen texture coming through. I'm gonna switch it off, and you can see that that's the way it looks. And that's the canvas, the linen canvas. We're gonna paint our little whimsical fox today. And I'm gonna quickly show you the brushes we're gonna use. So if you've purchased the Ode to Nature Procreate brush set, we're going to use this set, and I'm going to talk you through each single step and each single individual brush and brush setting. However, if you've not purchased the brush set, and if you prefer to use your own brushes or any other brushes, it's just as well going to work. It might not achieve the exact same effect, but I'm sure it's going to be looking just fine too. So, as I said, with this brush set, they are inspired by nature and nature textures, and the name of them are quite like nature related. You can see coral reef, water ripples, woodland marsh, poplar fluff, sea salt, etc. So I gave them the name of the natural materials I got inspired with while creating these particular brushes. And so what's special about this set? Nearly every brush, every texture brush, can be used 3 different ways. So usually, if you're familiar with my brush sets, I normally create filler brush to make like solid color layer. I create textures, and I create sketching brushes like and details. These ones are quite versatile, universal. So for example, if I take this chalkstone brush, it can be, so see, if I increase the size of it and if I increase the opacity to 100%, it's perfectly adequate to use as a filler. Yes, the edge of this brush is fluffy, but that's the way I create my objects and my artworks. Uneven fluffy edge. You can always tidy it with some other brush with a little bit sharper edge if you want with the eraser, but essentially, yeah. So use chalkstone as a filler. Again, if I reduce the size of it, see, like even more, I can use it as a smaller brush. I can use it for smaller details. I can use it for drawing and sketching the objects. And see, if I create a new layer and I take the same brush and I increase the size of it, I choose a different color and reduce the opacity, I can use it as texture cover. I can play around with blending modes as always. So see, these are quite versatile, and you can tell this thing about nearly every single brush here, apart from the stamps probably, and apart from like really delicate ones like quartzite, for example. Let me show you the stamps. So the stamps I use personally for like decorative purposes. So the stamps are stamps. See, you can use it individually or you can combine them, creating like some separate texture. This one is my favorite. It's tumbleweed. Just honestly, the creative possibilities are limitless. Use them together in different colors if you like creating abstract compositions. If you like them too. Sea salt. You see. You can always increase the size of it to create a nice texture. So basically, as always, versatility, multiple use, different kinds of textures and the ways of using different kinds of effects provided. Also, there is one special brush. It's called Baby Owl. It's a fluffy brush. It's a dual color brush. So if you open the classic palette, and you see there is like blue and pink selected. See, it creates kind of like mixture of two different colors, blue and pink, which is quite nice when you do like different color transitions, and I do that a lot. So yeah, you would probably appreciate that one. And what else is important to say? Whether you are using the Ode to Nature brush set, if you've purchased it, or you use your own brushes, I provide the free resources for you, which are this Fox stamp brush. So I just decided to spare you from sketching the fox. I just thought we'll save some time because that's not the purpose of this tutorial. So this is the stamp brush. We're just gonna do that. And here is our sketch ready. And there is also mini color palette. Ode to Nature Fox, it's called. It's also provided with this tutorial. And there is also JPEG canvas that you can use for painting your fox to create a more realistic effect. But the layered Procreate canvases are only available with the purchase of the set. How to get your free tutorial, guys. So underneath this video you will find the link to my freebies page. For that, I would kindly ask you to subscribe to my newsletter, to my monthly email, and immediately you will get the notification of the email confirmation, of the subscription confirmation, where you'll find the passcode which you can use for accessing your free resources. And you can download this tutorial resources and also other free resources like Photoshop brushes, different color palettes, seamless patterns, and many other things. If you are already a subscriber, just use your password that you previously had received to access your freebies, and you will see the Fox tutorial resources there, so you can download them separately without needing to download the rest. And yeah, let's move on to the next part. In the next part, we're gonna create the solid colored layers for our fox. Alright guys, so you know where to download your resources now, and I'm gonna now show you how to color the main shapes of the fox, which is really just one shape. And for that, I'm gonna turn my iPad like this, because obviously our illustration is gonna be vertical this time. And come on, Procreate, follow along. Yeah. So, and as I said, the paper we're going to be using is linen texture. And if you don't have the Ode to Nature Procreate set, use whatever paper you wish. And as I said, just to save you some time, I made this fox stamp for you. Hopefully you've downloaded it already based on my instructions in the previous chapter. If not, again, you're welcome to sketch your own fox or to sketch whatever object you prefer. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab the fox stamp and I'm gonna make sure that I'm on sketch here layer, which is on top of our texture stack, which we're gonna switch off going forward. So that's why we're not worried about it too much. And the color I'm gonna choose is some grayish color, similar to a graphite pencil color. And I'm just gonna stamp my fox somewhere on the paper. And I'm gonna take the move tool, making sure that it's uniform. And I'm gonna stretch my fox to make sure that it fits the canvas. Mind you that in the very last chapter, we're going to be adding a little bit of the background and some like branches with leaves behind the fox, just to make the illustration complete, which is totally optional. You don't have to. You can stretch the fox, make it as big as you want. But in my case, I'm just going to make it like around maybe 70% of the canvas. It's going to be taken by the fox. And just keeping in mind that there will be some other things around it. And as always, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 18% so I can barely see the guidelines and they don't interfere with my artwork. Right, now we're going to go down to paint here layer. And the brush we're going to be using today is Ode to Nature. Chalkstone brush. Because I need a solid color on my fox, because I'm going to be clipping different other layers on top of it, I'm going to increase the opacity of this brush to 100%. And I'm going to reduce the size to around 40%. Let's see. Yes, that's approximately, maybe even slightly smaller, maybe 33%. And now I'm going to start coloring my fox. So the color I'm going to choose for the main as the main color is this very first lighter blue color, because the fox is whimsical. I didn't want on purpose to make it orange or brown or gray. I just wanted it to look straight from a fairy tale. So I'm going to grab this light blue brush, maybe reduce even the size to 11%, and I'm just going to start coloring in inside the main shapes. I'm going to mix different colors. That's why I'm going to color in only some areas, not every area, because I'm going to mix in some green color just for the interest. And this part, see, like the belly and the chest and the lower part of the snout, it's going to be white. So again, I'm not worried too much about this part because I'm going to cover it with white. And yeah, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Just now, as I said, just maybe a little bit here as well, just to make a little bit more interesting effect, I'm gonna add this nice green color. However, just to make it a little bit more delicate, I'm gonna reduce the opacity of this layer to maybe 40 something percent. See? And I'm just gonna maybe reduce the size a little bit and mix this green here and there. And just to get rid of this harshness, I'm gonna take the smudge tool and I'm gonna take chalkstone brush, and the opacity may be around 70% and the size may be around 30%, and I'm just gonna gently blend it together, green and blue. See, it creates this nice transition between green and blue, giving our animal a slightly unusual color. Again, remember, I'm not worried about this part because I'm just going to create the lighter fur on the new layer here. So I'm just going to smudge it, bleed it up there. Yeah, so see, now I've mixed together green and blue, and as always, just what I do during the process, I just switch the sketch layer off to see how it looks. It looks already quite good. It looks recognizable. It looks like it's a fox. And what I can see, you see like this untidy edges. Sometimes I would just use an eraser tool just to clean it up. But this time, what I want to do, I want to add a little bit of fluffiness because it's a furry animal, it's a fox. And I want to make the fur a little bit softer and fluffier, especially this brush set Ode to Nature is called Soft Texture Brush. So I'm going to check what fluffy brush I could use, and I think I'm just going to use Poplar Fluff, just going to try it, and I'm just going to grab this lighter blue color. I'm going to increase the opacity to 100% and reduce the size. And let's see, yeah, I'm going to increase the size to probably, let's see, I'm just experimenting, maybe 35%, around that. So see, I'm going to bring it closer, and I'm just going to work around the edge of my fox, and you can see it gives it this fluffy edge, which is, I think, is lovely. Yes, so see, I'm just gonna go around, just make sure, make sure you don't create this harsh outline. If you see that there is a lot of blue going on, just go ahead and mix it with the green going forward. So you see, like, this is our fox got this nice fluffy edge to its fur. And again, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna try and experiment, because this is quite a transparent probably layer, because you see, like, if you look at your like layer thumbnail, you can see that there is a lot of like transparent gaps going on. So what I do sometimes, I'm just going to duplicate this layer, pinch it together, and just use the smudge tool to mix the harsher areas. However, you know what, I like it like this because it looks like this like wood, painted wood effect, which is welcome on a nature-inspired piece of artwork. So yeah. Now, let's see what we're going to do next. Next, I'm going to switch on the sketch layer again, and I'm going to create a new layer. Usually, I create a lot of clipping masks. However, this time, I'm not going to create a clipping mask in this particular case, because that's going to be a separate layer, and that's going to be lighter fur to our fox. For this, I'm going to use the brush called Garden Peat, and the color I'm going to use is pure white color, bear with me because I'm just gonna see how it looks. Yeah, I think it looks very good. And I'm just gonna go over, see this this area of my fox, the chest, the tummy, the bottom part of the snout, and the tip of the tail. And I'm just gonna speed it up for you, and you just follow along. Right, if you see that you would like to correct something, I would recommend using the same eraser brush as you used for painting. So I'm just going to use the Garden Pete brush just to erase the edge a little bit here. And you see, based on my sketch, I can see that I went a little bit overboard with that. So I'm gonna go on this layer, on our blue and green layer, and I'm just gonna erase, rub it off. Right, and the tip of the tail. See, I'm not being precious at all. It's all quite rough, and just like we are literally preparing the canvas for the further details, etc. So let's switch the sketch layer off, and I can see a little bit of blue left here, and I'm just gonna go over it. Well, what else would be nice? So reduce the opacity of the Garden Pete brush, reduce the size, and just fluff the edge up a little bit. See, just it gives it this subtle transition, subtle fluffiness from harsher white to lighter ones. Also, if you see that, I quite like see this harshness. If you're unhappy about the harshness of transition, you can always use the smudge tool. I know that many artists don't like using the smudge tool and don't recommend, but I use smudge tool a lot because that's the kind of person I am, the one who uses the smudge tool a lot. It's a very well used tool in my practice. So yeah, so I quite like that. Maybe I'll smudge a tiny bit, see, like that. But overall, I'm pretty happy. And without even switching the sketch layer on, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna change the blending mode to multiply. And the brush I'm gonna use is let's select something fluffy, Fossil, and the color I'm gonna use is this color. See, the third one in the palette. Actually, I'm gonna start with this one. See, that's our main color of the fox. This one is slightly darker, so we can create a nice transition. I'm gonna reduce the opacity, the size of the brush and the opacity, and I'm just gonna color in size even smaller. I'm just gonna color in the tops of my fox's ears. See, just making them a little bit darker, just a little bit. See, I'm not harshly like drawing, I'm just lightly touching the tips. What else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna add a little bit of dark on the snout. I'm gonna add a little bit of dark on the tips of the paws. So see, at this stage, with this particular color, with this brush and this blending mode, because I'm touching so softly and gently, I'm not really trying to observe any borders, outlines of the paws. Let's switch the sketch back on to see that's the paw, and I'm gonna go almost half up this leg just to create this nice color transition, which I'm gonna refine later. And you see the little back feet, and maybe just a tiny bit here. And you see, I'm gonna try and gently separate the parts of the fox's body from one another. See, like for example, this tail, so it's not particularly like exactly solid piece with the rest of the body, so that's why I'm just adding a little bit of color transitions. Same here, you see we've got this line here. I'm just gonna darken a little bit that part, maybe just very gently along this line just to separate the paw, maybe just a tiny bit here and there. Also see, we can see like a little bit of the back leg on the background, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker color here and maybe just a tiny bit here. Let's switch the sketch off and see. See, we now are already creating a quite recognizable outline of our fox with this little cute color transitions. And yeah, next part is properly darkening the paws and the tips of the ears and just maybe a little bit of the snout, and that's it. So I'm creating a new layer. I'm going to change it to multiply mode, and this time with the same brush, Fossil, I'm going to grab this next color, this you see grayish purplish blue. I'm going to reduce the size of it because I'm going to just try and create the sharpness of the ears. The opacity, again, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to see what works best. 72% at the moment. And I'm just going to go ahead. See, I'm going to reduce the size even further to create this sharp tips on the ears. And because the opacity is less than 100%, obviously, if you want to make it like particularly dark on the very tips of the ears, you just go over same place several times. See, I'll show you on this one. If I do just one hatch here, it's like this darkish gray. I go over again, it makes it darker. And the darkest I'm gonna do is this like sharpness, so almost lamp black or Payne's gray color. See, I think that's a little bit harsh. That's why I'm just gonna go ahead and, oops, that's too much. Then just smudge a little bit here. Again, with the same brush, which is Fossil, I'm gonna just increase the size a little bit, staying on 70% opacity. I'm just gonna add a little bit of darkness on the fox's snout. Yeah, quite like that. And with the paws, I'm gonna do nearly the same as I did with the ears, only without sharpness. So I'm gonna make first layer, first hatch with one touch and then go over the very tip of the paw to make it darker. Same here, so that's our first layer going with a gentle touch, and now going over again. See why I'm doing it in multiple steps, like this micro tiny multiple steps, because it creates this nice color transition from dark to light. So because in my artwork I always try to avoid these harsh transitions. See, back pause, it's very dark on the tips. Just a little bit on the bum. But again, you see, I think that line is a little bit too harsh. So here is a smudge tool coming to the rescue, as always. And yeah, so that's the base of our fox ready.
And the next step is going to be the eye and the nose.
I once got asked why I draw my character's eyes almost like as an initial step. The reason is that the eye instantly gives the character to this creature I'm working on. It gives its personality, it gives them this uniqueness, and once you give this soul to this sort of like soulless layer, you immediately know what to do next. It's like it's almost telling you what it wants next done. So in this part we're going to draw the eye. So what I recommend, these layers, I'm not going to flatten them because going forward we will need them separately. And but what I suggest is that you create a group. You can go ahead and lock it if you want at this stage. You can rename it. Body. Lock it so you don't accidentally alter something that you don't want to change. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to switch my sketch on to see where the eye is. So the fox is kind of like looking up, and the brush I'm going to use for that is called the Spring Blades, and I'm going to use the white color to make the white. The opacity is going to be 100%, and the size is going to be maybe 25-26%. And I'm just going to fill the white of the eye. The eye I draw for my characters is pretty much the same everywhere. It's like fish shape eye. And immediately I'm going to create a clipping mask to create the iris. With the same brush, Spring Blade, I'm going to choose this lighter green color. And I'm just going to create this circle for the iris. Let's go ahead and create the pupil as well. I'm going to create a clipping mask, and the brush for the pupil I'm going to use is Silver Sand. And the color I'm going to use is this dark graphite color in the middle. You can make the pupil circular. I kind of like, for my Whimsical Fox, I would like to make it a little bit more like cat-like, mysterious. I think that's quite nice. And let's maybe do a little bit of, just maybe like this, a little bit work on the eye. I can switch the sketch off, and what I'm gonna do, First of all, I'm gonna make the eye stand out more on the face. I'm gonna create a new layer, change the blending mode to multiply. And the brush I'm gonna use is Silt. It's quite textured and it's gonna give our eye a nice soft outline. And the color I'm gonna choose is the second bluish green color. I'm gonna reduce the opacity. At the moment, I don't want any harsh lines. And the size, and with gentle strokes, I'm gonna outline the eye of my fox. Mostly the upper lid, if we can call it even a lid. See, with this sweeping motions, I'm gonna create this upper lid. You can add the lower lid outline in the bottom if you want, but I think the upper one is the most important one right now. So I'm just creating this darker arch on top of the eye. See, immediately the eye stands out on the face. It's no longer flat. The only thing is that I think it's a little bit harsh. You can leave it like this. It looks quite nice just the way it is. But I'm gonna grab my favorite smudge tool, which comes to the rescue all the time. And I think the brush I'm gonna use is Fossil, because it can go quite small. And I'm just gonna smudge a little bit around the edge. Yeah, quite like that. And now the brush I'm gonna use is Silver Sand, and I'm gonna take this darker color just to create this lash line. So I'm gonna reduce the opacity just a little bit and the size, and I'm just gonna create this lash line, if we can talk about lash line with a Whimsical Fox, but it's a Whimsical Fox, so why not? It can have lashes. That's pretty much my standard eye I give all my animals and birds. See, it's just like a little bit, something is not right there, so I'm just gonna go back to my white layer, and I'm gonna grab some solid brush, which could be Silver Sand just as well, and I'm just gonna gently correct the shape of the white, just to make it in line. And I'm also gonna correct the outline in the bottom. And now I can see that this line is a little bit harsh, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of more of a fluffiness. So the brush I'm gonna use is Cobweb, and the color I'm gonna use is now again this lighter, like medium green color. And I'm just gonna walk around it, and maybe a little bit in the bottom here. There you go. Yeah, it's important not to overdo it, because sometimes it's just really hard to stop. But the very last thing I would like to do with the eye, it looks a little bit flat to me. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make the darker outline of the iris. I'm gonna mix in a little bit of bluish color, and I'm gonna add some highlights. And it's all gonna be very, very easy. So I'm gonna create a layer on top of this green layer, and I'm gonna change the blending mode to multiply. And I'm gonna take the Spring Blades brush, and I'm gonna take the same green color I used for the eye. I'm gonna reduce the opacity, and I'm just gonna gently go around the eye, creating this darker outline. See, immediately makes it a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to create a new layer, and the reason I'm creating a new layer here is because I want to use a normal blending mode. So I'm just going to grab some fluffy brush, like for example forest floor brush, reduce the size, the opacity, and I'm gonna take this lighter blue color, and I'm just gonna add a little bit here and there. See, it just like turns into greenish blue, which I quite like. I'm just also gonna grab this darker green, maybe a little bit here. See, it's just this creates this nice transitions. And on the new layer, I'm gonna grab the Spring Blades brush. I'm gonna take the white color, reduce the opacity slightly, the size slightly, and I think I'm gonna add, it's gonna go obviously on top of the pupil. I'm gonna add this highlight. I also often add a little bit of the highlight in the bottom of the eye. It just gives the eyes this like moisture look, like there are like tears, crystals of tears in it. So yeah, and that's it. That's our eye ready. And now I'm gonna add the nose. So let me combine this group together, and I'm probably gonna flatten it because group together, and I'm gonna create a new layer. And the brush I'm gonna use is silver sand again because it's quite delicate, and the color I'm gonna use is this anthracite gray. Reduce the opacity, increase the size a little bit, and I'm just gonna draw the nose. Absolutely no anatomy involved in this nose, as you can see, you probably can tell. It's just literally like a blob of dark color, but it does look like a nose, right? It does. And I can make just this tiny smile. And that's it, guys. That's literally all I'm gonna do about the nose and the snout of the fox. And my favorite part, but totally optional, I'm just gonna create it on the same layer as the nose. I'm gonna grab woodland marsh, no, garden peat brush, and I'm gonna take this nice ash pink brush, increase the opacity to 100%, but reduce the size a little bit, and I'm gonna just give my fox a lovely cheek. See, the cheek instantaneously gives it this folky, whimsical look, which obviously on a realistic normal animal you won't see. And I'm gonna try and play around with the size of it. So now on the hindsight, it looks like I should have created it on the new layer. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab the select tool, freehand. I'm gonna select the cheek because at the moment it's on the same layer as the nose. I'm gonna swipe with 3 fingers, cut and paste, and now I've got it on a separate layer. And I'm just gonna play around because it seemed to me that I wanted it a little bit bigger than I created initially. Yeah, I think that's nice. I think I like it like that. And yeah, that's it. That's the facial features we've created. In the next part, I'm gonna enhance the colors, make darker areas, separate more of the body parts from one another, and yeah, see you in the next step. So again, this part can be totally omitted. It's just me. I feel that it's just a tiny bit flat. That's why I would like to add just a little bit of darker areas, not too dark though. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So this time I'm going to unlock the body group because I'm going to go back here. And on top of this layer, paint here, you see like where we created the fox's like main colored body. I'm going to create a new layer and create a clipping mask here. And I'm going to change the blending mode to linear burn. That doesn't mean I'm not going to change it going forward because I'm just constantly looking what to improve. And I'm going to use the fossil brush. I'm going to reduce the opacity to around 50% and I'm going to increase the size to around 60% because I'm literally going to make the blotches of darker color. Linear burn. Let's try and work with this color this time because I don't think it's going to be too dark given the fact that the opacity is quite reduced. So I'm going to experiment. If I don't like it, I'm going to cancel it. You follow along, but I encourage you to experiment yourself. And let's start with the areas that need a little bit of darkness. It's the base of the tail, I would say. See this textures, that's what I was talking about. When you use the brush as layering the texture with a reduced opacity, look how lovely the texture is. It's just so natural. It's like literally you're painting on the aged wood. I'm gonna add a little bit of darkness here. I'm quite randomly doing that. I'm not following any light and shade rules. I'm gonna add a little bit here, a little bit here. I'm gonna reduce the size and you see like separate a little bit of the head from the ear. A little bit darker on this part because it's like the back legs. A little bit here. Not gonna make it too dark because I'm gonna add like darkish background of my fox, but just to create a little bit more interest. That's what I call it, interest. See, just adding a little bit of brush strokes here and there, creating this natural effect. See, I can see like some flatter areas. I can always use like smudge tool to smudge a little bit here. You can also alternate the colors, of course. If you take like, for example, this green color, add it a little bit. I think that's quite nice. It's just this color transition makes it so nice, so artistic, so unique. So you see, I'm going with the flow. I've no particular plan. Outlining the bum a little bit with green. Also, guys, the reason I'm making the fox's body is quite dark, solid in texture is because we'll be adding the whimsical elements and some texture elements, which is going to be quite light on top of it. So we kind of want it to stand out. Going forward, you'll see what I mean. Oh yeah, quite like that. See? Very nice. And the only other thing, it's pretty much done. This stage is done. It's quite a short one. The only thing I would like to do is like, see this white part is just a tiny bit flat. I would like to separate this transition between the snout and the chest. For that, I'm gonna create a new layer on top of this white. I'm gonna clip it as a clipping mask, change the blending mode to multiply, and I probably used same fossil brush because I need it to be quite delicate. And because it's white, I don't want any harsh darkness. So I'm going to reduce the opacity to like 20 something%. And the color I'm going to use is this lightest grayish blue. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit like shade-like strokes. See in the bottom of the snout and like lightly transitioning to the chest. I think just a little bit too harsh. So the smudge tool is coming to the rescue. And a little bit on the belly. And now you see, I can see that I probably would like to smudge the end of it a little bit, just so there is no harsh transition.
And I think I'm just gonna leave it like this.
So because our fox is whimsical, I'm gonna add some details which are gonna make it particularly special. And for that, you need to create a new layer for that, whether you clip it to the body layer or not. Well, I'm not going to clip it, I'm just going to create it separately. The blending mode is normal, and the brush I'm going to use is silver sand brush. And look what I'm going to do. I'm going to reduce the opacity to around maybe 60-ish%, and the size is going to be around 30%. And I'm going to grab the white color, see, probably even smaller. And what I'm going to do, because our fox is whimsical and special, I'm just going to create twigs and stems with leaves on the fox's body. So as I said, the new layer, and I'm going to grab this silver sand brush. And what I'm going to do, so this brush is pressure sensitive, so the more you press it down, the thicker it gets. So if you start lighter and keep pressing, it's going to get thicker, but at the same time it's quite delicate. So I'm going to start really light and pressing harder. I'm going to create this sort of like leaf type shape. See, like sharper leaves. So I'm just going to paint this elongated leaves. No particular pattern, just randomly, just making it look magic. So just trying to make the ends a little bit sharper. See, like in all my illustrations, I always try to bring this mystical folk rather element. Again, just gonna show you close up a little bit. So see how if I want to start thin, I barely touch the surface, and now I'm just pressing it harder, and that's what creates this nice effect. See also this brush, it's kind of like half transparent on one side and a little bit more solid on the other, just randomly making this like leaf type strokes. You can put flowers there or some patterns, whatever you decide. I'm gonna just try and play around with the size of the brush, so I'm just to make it a slightly bit more delicate. I don't have to come up with different ideas of botanicals, because that's basically my goal here, to show you how to easily make a nice illustration that you can put in your portfolio, or just for fun, or in a card. You can be proud of your own creation, and it doesn't have to be super elaborate. It can be very, very simple, but yet quite unique. Right, in this step I'm gonna show you how to add a little bit of a background to the fox. Again, it's your personal preference, your personal choice. You can leave it as it is. In my opinion, it's just a little bit incomplete, a little bit unfinished. That's why I'm just gonna add a little bit of a background to it. Very simple, nothing complicated. So for that, I'm going to create a new layer and drag it to the very bottom of the stack, obviously above the background color, but underneath all the layers with the fox. And the brush I'm going to use is some big fluffy one, just to give it a little bit of a easier job for us. So chalk stone I'm going to use, and I'm going to increase the opacity to 100%, as well as the size to 100%. And the colors I'm going to choose, see this two, I deliberately put these two swatches in the very bottom of the palette because they're for the background. However, you don't have to obviously use them. You can use your own colors, but I just thought that they are best matching for this purpose. So I'm going to start with this grayish blue with the large size and 100% opacity. I'm just gonna go randomly with nice strokes, touching lightly around. That's it, like a little cloud behind this fox, like a little portal to this whimsical parallel world. And now I'm just gonna grab this deep inky like violet, not violet, but like ultramarine color, and maybe just reduce the opacity slightly, but with the same brush I'm just gonna add a little bit of darkness here and there. See, like when you have the lighter elements of the fox, you can make it a little bit deeper in terms of the tone of color. When it's kind of like darker parts, you can leave it a little bit lighter. But yes, like no rule here. And what I'm going to do now, the effect I've created with those brushes, I'm going to take the smudge tool, and the brush I'm going to use this time for the smudge is this little twigs brush. I think it's amazing because look at the effect it makes. Look, how pretty is that? So see, I'm smudging the color, this inky ultramarine and greyish purple color. Look how it splits the color into the like different shades and tones. I think that's amazing. This brush is easily my favorite, one of my favorites in this whole entire set. See, like it adds this dreaminess to the effect. See, like I'm smudging it. Look, close up again. I think that's amazing. I say it myself about my own brushes, but I hope, guys, you can appreciate the brushes, the way I do. And yeah, see. And this, oh look, see how I just drag some color from behind the fox's tail. Sometimes just unexpected effects happen, and I really like it. That's why, like, there is nothing perfect or precise or academic in my art. So I think that's quite nice already. Now I'm going to show you a little trick which I use quite often when I have this sort of like, what is this white thing? All right, okay, so it must be a part of the eyes. So I'm going to grab the eraser tool and just get rid of it. It happens sometimes. So what I use sometimes, the trick, especially when I add the background and I don't want it to look too solid, too flat, I want it to look more interesting and nice. What I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this layer and switch it off in case I don't like the effect. And on the new one, just to see if it's going to work or not, I'm going to take the select tool, I'm going to choose the freehand mode, and I'm just going to randomly choose a shape. And the next step, I'm going to choose the feather, and I'm going to increase the feather amount, let's say to 30%, just so there are no harsh edges there. What I'm going to do next, watch the hands, I'm going to go on this adjustments menu, falls down, and I'm going to choose hue, saturation and brightness. And going to the hue part, which is on the very left bottom, I'm just going to pull this thing around. See, it changes the part I've chosen. See, if you change saturation, it becomes like almost black. But I was thinking of something a little bit more purplish, and yeah, I'm quite happy with that. In this case, what happens basically, you add a little bit more color transitions, which I'm a big fan of color transitions. Probably you probably noticed that. Let's see what it did. So I'm gonna cancel it, add it back. So you see, it's a little bit more purple. You know what? It's very subtle. I know some of you might say that there is no difference at all. However, you do whatever suits you best. You can go bolder, you can go brighter, you can, on the contrary, decrease the saturation so it's absolutely colorless. You can play around with adding different color tones. So you are the artist and you do it. The only thing I've noticed now is that, look, I see that the background comes through this fox's white chest. So I'm gonna go and choosing this layer. I honestly, guys, I don't remember what brush I used to color I think it was Silt, but I'm just gonna grab Garden Peat. I'm gonna grab the white color with full opacity, and I'm just gonna go over this sort of like darkish area so the background doesn't come through too much. So increase the size just to make fluffiness a little bit better. I just wanted you to know that it's absolutely normal if you keep coming back to certain areas that you think that need a little bit more work. You don't have to constantly stick to a very strict set in stone plan for your artwork. Just keep coming back. I'm not worried too much about the body because I kind of like this effect when the darker background comes through. There's absolutely nothing wrong about it. Quite the opposite. It gives the fox a little bit like more illustrative, like an authentic look. And yes, I'm quite happy with the background. Now, let's add some more decorative elements to the background. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm literally going to add a little bit like not trees as such, but a little bit of branches and twigs. That's what I usually do with my artwork. For that, I'm going to choose the silt brush, and the color of the branches I want to use is this rusty pink. And let's see, I'm going to increase the opacity to 100%. Yep, quite happy with that. I'm going to increase the size to maybe around 50%. So there's brushes as well. This one, silt, it's pressure sensitive. So if I do thin line, like a real light stroke, it's quite thin, but the more pressure I apply, the thicker it gets. And then see, I let it go again, so it's thin again. So that's basically the principle we're going to use for our branches. So yeah, randomly, just the branches are going to be coming from behind my fox, so I'm going to increase the pressure and then ease it off. And look, I'm just going to take it outside of this portal because I think that's quite a nice effect. And let's add a little bit more twigs. See, this one is thicker. I'm going to make this one a little bit thicker. Guys, experiment. If there is only one thing I could tell to my students, I would say, be brave, don't worry, and experiment. Because I'm basically in the constant search of some new effects, some new forms, colors, layers, techniques, etc. So I'm quite happy with this branch, and I'm just gonna add maybe one more, just also coming out from the back of the fox, and just bring it a little bit out like this. You guys, if you're more comfortable, you can go ahead and switch the fox illustration off. I'm deliberately not doing that at this stage because I want to see, I don't want to waste time thinking like how is it going to look behind the fox, switching it constantly on and off. If you're more comfortable to do that way, you do you. And it seems to me that I need a little bit here. And that's it. That's the branches. I'm not going to add any lights and shades, any more texture, because look, the linen texture of the canvas and the texture of the brush itself is already quite remarkable. And the next thing I'm going to add the green leaves to match our fox's eyes. So I'm going to create a new layer, and this time the brush I'm going to use is Woodland Marsh. And the color I'm going to choose is this lighter green color. And let's see how I'm quite happy with the size. And I'm just going to add this absolutely unrealistic, whimsical collage type leaves on top of the branches. And see, leaf shape, and just color it in. Nice. And basically, because I'm going to use one and the same brush and one and the same color, so all the leaves are going to be same color and texture, the variety I'm going to play upon this time is the leaves direction and the leaves size. So I'm going to try and do various sizes and directions. So this leaf is looking up, so let's do the next one looking slightly away and it's slightly smaller. Let's add another one looking slightly different way and even smaller. Let's add one here, quite a big one. Let's add a little bit of a smaller one on the side. Let's add a tiny one here. Medium size here and the tiny one looking. Also, just don't feel restricted that your leaves have to be attached to your branches. There is nothing realistic. If you choose between realistic and unrealistic, childish, choose the latter one. I mean, in this type of art, unless you obviously want to go for a realistic hue, but that's probably not, you wouldn't be here then watching my tutorials if you wanted to do a realistic effect. So let's make a massive leaf here and two smaller ones here. Yeah. And let's, I feel like adding one coming from here, or maybe even two. And I'm gonna add just a smaller one on this side, a bigger one looking here. Very, very simple, nothing complicated about it. It's just this whimsical, unrealistic. Oh, don't want them to look identical, so I'm just going to direct this one a little bit down. Yeah, and maybe two tiny ones here just to balance the composition. Yeah, because you see, like, the fox's tail is quite a prominent piece. Maybe one here. Actually, maybe I'll add a little bit tiny ones here and there, like as if they're floating. Yeah. Almost done, guys. Bear with me. If you feel like, what else you can do? You can create a clipping mask on top of this layer. You can change the blending mode to multiply, and either with the same color or this darker one. Let's choose some other brush. I'll take this silver sand brush with lower opacity. I can add like this middle parts of the leaves just to make them even more weird, because, you know, why not? Just experiment, guys. You can add white or lighter veins to the leaves. That will be quite a nice effect as well. The reason I'm not adding lighter ones is because I don't want the leaves to conflict with the fox, because the fox itself, we have the background of a darker color, and the decorations, the decorative elements are light, so I don't want the leaves to be exactly the same. However, how can I know if I've not tried it? So go ahead, try it, show it to me if you want. I think it's almost there, and the very last part, which is next part, is going to be finishing touches. See you then. Alright, guys, we are at the very final stage of our illustration, finishing touches. It's the nicest part when you are almost done, and actually what's nice about this stage is that you can completely omit it. You don't have to do it, but I always feel that it brings the illustration on a slightly different level when you do that, this little bits and bobs in the end. So what I'm gonna do, so we've created our background. I'm gonna delete this layer, like the one that we switched off. We don't need it. And all I'm gonna do now I'm gonna add one more layer on top of my dark background, and I'm gonna play around with the stamp brushes. And the color I'm gonna use is gonna be something light. So let's see, some of them might not work. We're gonna find out on the go in the process. So I'm gonna grab the claw scratch brush and I'm gonna choose this white color, and I'm gonna keep the opacity to 100%. I can always reduce the layer opacity, and I'm just gonna stamp. See, one stamp like we did with the fox stamp, you can always increase the size, the direction of the movement. Yeah, I'll probably leave it here, why not? But that's probably not going to be my most favorite stamp brush for here. So I think I'm going to use sea salt, the sea salt brush. I'm going to just try. Yeah, I'm going to try on a different level layer, because I might just try and increase the size of it and the opacity. See, I quite like that. It gives some nice texture. However, I'm going to reduce the opacity just a tiny bit. See, it's like it immediately gives this darker background a little bit more character. I'm going to create a new layer. Oh no, I'm not going to create a new layer. It won't allow me. So I'm just going to get rid of the sketch, and I'm just going to pinch the nose and the cheek together, and I can pinch these two together as well. I'm not going to overdo it, because obviously there should be a limit to details. So I think dewdrops is going to look really nice here, so I'm just gonna stamp and turn it around. Look, I think that's quite nice. Stamp here, stamp there. See, it gives like this little specks of white. I now think that maybe I'll go on the very dark background layer, and I'm going to grab this dark purple inky color, and I'm just going to add a little bit of splatters here and there. Beautiful. And that's it, guys. I promise you, almost done. And this time you can just pinch these two together. The very last thing, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to probably drag it on the very top of everything. I'm going to keep the blending mode to normal, and I'm going to grab some brush, almost any. If you remember in the very beginning of this class, I told you that you can use almost every brush as the filler, as the detail brush, or as texture. So I don't really mind. I think I'm gonna just try and experiment. Let's try Spring Blades brush, and I'm gonna reduce the size to a very, very small one. The color I'm going to choose is this white color. See, I think that may be a little bit too bright, so I'm just going to reduce the size a little bit and reduce the opacity even more, maybe to 37%. Yeah, quite like that. And as I always do, or almost always in my illustrations, I'm going to do little scratches. So first scratches I'm going to create, I'm going to add this sort of like whiskers to my fox. And now I'm just going to add little scratches alongside this white bit. I think that's quite nice. See, around this, around the face. around the chest. You can mix and match. You see, like it's like hairs. I know we're not doing a realistic fox. Of course I do. I remember that. But let's be honest, there is literally nothing realistic about this fox. So we can, all right, so we can afford adding a little bit of this sort of like realistic fur elements, and they're not going to give this realistic effect anyway. See? I'm just adding this nice, like feathery touch. Just around the fox. Around the body, maybe on the body itself, just to complement our little leaves. The tail. I'm gonna add, you see, just a little bit of claws. I think that's quite cute. See? And that's it, guys. Our fox is done. Go and surprise your family and friends how awesome you are. And thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye. All right, you lovely people. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial, for following along. I hope it wasn't too boring. And if you're watching me right now, it means that you've come so far. And well done. And please share your art. You can follow me on Instagram and tag me on Instagram at my_busy_May. If you're too shy to share your artwork, just send it to my direct messenger. I'm definitely going to give you feedback if you're wondering, but it's just my best reward to see people using my classes, using my brushes, using other things that I create. So that means the world to me. So if that's not too hard, please do so. And again, thanks for watching, and leave a comment what you think about this tutorial. Is there something you didn't understand properly, I didn't explain to you properly? If there is something else you would like me to create a tutorial about, because you know, like if you're familiar with my art, I create a lot of whimsical beings like animals, birds, botanicals, and even people. So do let me know if you want to see something particular, me teaching you. And yeah, have a lovely day, and see you later. Bye.